Do you want to start using your raw GA4 data inside of BigQuery, but do you have a hard time finding out where to start? Well, this is the video for you. In this video, I'm going to show you around. We're going to discover where you can find your raw GA4 data. We're going to talk through all the fields, what kind of information is available, and I'm going to show you 5 simple examples how you can start to query your raw GA4 data. So let's dive in. Welcome to the channel. My name is Leon. This channel exists to help you use your web analytics to become more effective in your daily work. I want to thank everyone that has been liking my videos and has subscribed to the channel. That really helps me get these videos out to as many people as I can. And as a way to say thank you, I've created a short cheat sheet on how you can grow your website traffic. So if you're interested in that, just head over to the video description. You'll find a link to that cheat sheet there for free. Also, if you like this video and want to watch more, just head over to my profile. You will find all sorts of videos over there on how to set up Google Tag Manager, how to use Google Analytics, and how to basically leverage your web analytics to become more effective in your daily work. All right, so here we are. We're inside of the Google Cloud platform. By the way, I've created a separate video on how to set up a BigQuery account and how to link your Google Analytics to that BigQuery account. So if you haven't done that already, just head over into the video description. You'll find a link there to that video. So I'm not going to repeat myself here. I'm going to assume that you've already set that up. But if you haven't done that, no worries. Just pause this video and watch that first or watch that later. But if you have set things up already, you should be able to log in via cloud.google.com, and then you can go into the console where you're forwarded here. And then first of all, just check if you're in the right project right here. And if you're in the right project, so I know that this is the project where I installed BigQuery, where I linked my BigQuery, you can just go ahead into the navigation and then look for BigQuery. And if it's not in this pinned list, you can just go into the view all products and then just find BigQuery here. Or go into search and then go to BigQuery. And then here is BigQuery as well. If you're here, just pin it so it's in the navigation as well. And then you can just open up your project right here. And then you will find a couple of things here. But the raw GA4 data, you should be able to find that in a folder that's called analytics dash and then a number. And I've linked 2 properties, and I know that this is the one just by the amount of days that have been exported. So this is where you should be able to find your raw GA4 data. Let's go over what you should expect here. So inside of the analytics dash and then a number, inside of this folder, you will find an events table and an events intraday table. The intraday table is basically your real-time data. So this is a stream of the data that's just streaming from my site into this table today. And then once every day, the raw data is exported to a new table in the events section. And this is where you have a so-called daily export. And if you don't have a massive amount of traffic, I recommend that you just use this daily table, because this is just a little bit more complete and stable compared to the intraday table. I'm still researching this, like what is exactly the difference. But what I heard from others is that the events table is just a little bit more stable and a little bit more complete. So some fields are not available. For instance, the session traffic source fields are not available in the intraday table. So you have a little bit more work reprocessing all that. And in the events table, you have just a little bit more ready to go. So I recommend that you use the events table here. And then under schema, you have basically a summary of all the fields that are available in this table. So for instance, every table has an event date. So every row has a date, a timestamp, an event name, etc. So these are all the available fields. And then under event parameters, you have a couple of sub fields there. And under privacy info, you have analytics storage and ad storage. Under geo, you have city, country, continent, region, app info. I'm looking for something else. I'm looking for device. Yeah, there you go. Category, device category. What kind of language, what kind of browser version, web info. So you have all these fields available. And then if you go into details, you have a little bit more information, like what's the location of the data, when was this created, is there a table expiration. And this is a good field to just check for a moment, because I have my table expiration set to never, so my data will be here forever if I don't remove tables. But sometimes you have a table expiration set to 60 days, and that's when you connect BigQuery without payment details. Then you're basically working in a sandboxed version of BigQuery, and then the table expiration is set to 60 days. So just check if your table expiration is set to never. There are guides online, you can just Google it, where they explain how to switch this. And then if you go into preview, you basically have a preview of the raw data that's in the table here. One important thing to note is here that I'm looking at the events of one single day. So my site is kind of low traffic, and then yesterday was a Sunday, so especially very low traffic, but you can just switch between days by going in here. So you basically have the preview. So if I want to the preview of Saturday, last Saturday I had a little bit more traffic, 79 events, and then you can just go through the events right here. So the event name basically says like what kind of event was registered. So here is a first visit, so a new user lands on my site. It also automatically registers a session start, and then a page view, and then a couple of other events, button clicks, link clicks, header clicks, page view, page loaded. So all the events that are tracked in a specific visit are just tracked here. For every event, for instance, this page view event right here, we have a couple of event parameters. So you might be familiar with this already if you know Google Analytics a little bit, but you, for instance, have a page title. So the page referrer was google.com, so it was an organic, because I don't have ads running, so that's organic traffic. And then the location was my homepage, and the page title is the page title of my homepage. The source is Google, medium is organic. So you have all these event parameters. If I scroll to the right, we have a user pseudo ID. This is an ID that is basically the cookie ID that's there. So I can see that these are all by the same user because it's the same pseudo ID. And if I go further, there might be a different pseudo ID. Yeah, here. So this is a different user from the one before. And I know that because it's just a different cookie ID. So this is where you kind of know a little bit more about the identity of a user. It's of course anonymous, but you at least can see like what events belong together with the same user. Then you have the privacy info. I'm not using consent mode on my site at the moment, so that's why these fields are null. But if you're using consent mode, you can kind of see like what's the difference between like what do people accept my cookies. You can have some stats here on that. Let's see, device category, desktop, device, brand name, Mozilla, Windows 10. So you have the device language, you have the, let's go ahead, you have a city, Australia, cool. So it was a non-Dutchy here. Platform web, if you have iOS or Android, you'll find those under the field platform. If you have e-commerce, you have a lot of fields here. So purchase revenue is right here, a refund value. We can go into the schema if you want to see all the fields that are under. So we are looking at e-commerce. So shipping, tax, you have even the items are here. So you have a lot of e-commerce information there. Let's go on. So under geo we already had app info. So you have traffic source. Traffic source has 3 fields, the source, medium, and name. And these are the first user traffic source. That might be a little bit confusing, but if I go to your site 3 times, and this would be my 3rd session, and it says, or Google Organic, then these are always the first traffic source that I had when I came first on your site. So this is the user traffic source. If you're familiar with GA, you know that there are a couple of reports. You have a user traffic sources and you have session traffic sources. Well, these are the user traffic sources. You also can find the session traffic sources. You can find these right here. So under, no, not collected traffic source, that's something else. You can find these under session traffic source last click. So again, under schema, you have a field called session traffic source last click. And then under manual campaign, you have a source, medium, and campaign name right here. All right, so we've looked at the raw data and we've talked through a lot of the fields that are available in the raw data export. But how do you turn something like this into something useful, into a report that you, for instance, could use in Looker Studio or could screenshot or could export to a spreadsheet? Well, to turn this into a report, we need to query this. We basically need to process the raw data into something else. And we can do that by going into the events table and go into query. That will open up a new tab. It kind of pre-fills already one line and it says select and then a space. So this, we're supposed to type something here. So the easiest thing that you can type here is select star and then from, and I like to write it like this. So put every command on its own line and then do an indent here. So it's a little bit more readable. And I like to lowercase. So let's do that real quick. It's just, I find it a little bit easier to read on the eyes. So here you go. And this is the easiest query that you could do. So let's just press enter. And this just returns everything from the event table that we just looked at. So this table, and I believe it's just querying the last day. So I have 9 events on this day, and it just returns 9 events. And let's just go over what we say here. Select star means select all the fields that are available. So it's just gonna select everything that's available here. I could also just select one field. Let's do that real quick. So let's select event name. Then I'm just asking for one field, and then it's just gonna list all the 9 events, but then only the event name. You see that? Let's go back. Select star means all fields. From, and then it's just say this is the path to my data. So Leon Korteweg -GA is just the top folder right here. It's just my project name. Analytics dash is the folder that contains my raw data, and events dash and then a date. That is the specific table that I have there. And then limit, if you have like lots of data, it's probably wise to have a limit there so it doesn't unnecessarily return millions and millions of rows. All right, so let's do something very simple here. We have already seen in the previous section of the video that we have a user pseudo ID. So this is basically the cookie ID. So I can do a couple of things here. By counting the amount of unique user pseudo IDs, I know the amount of users that I had on the previous day. So a select, and then I can say something like count, and then I can count the amount of rows. So event name, just list the field here. The amount of rows here is 9. So 9 events. And I can even say count event name as events. So basically this is not really a readable name. So I want to give this a readable name, events. And I can say count distinct user pseudo ID. There you go. As users. So I have 9 events from one user. Of course, this is all very, very, very basic. We're just doing baby steps here. The other thing that you could count is the amount of page views. So we could do something like this. Count if event name equals page view as views. So we have one page view, 9 events. Let's just check if that's correct. So let's go back into, is this the same? We're looking at this, the right date. And this is user pseudo ID. Yeah, it's all the same user. I can see that because all the pseudo IDs are the same. And yeah, I have one page view here, and the rest is all just scroll, user engagement, and that's it. Okay, so that's correct. Because I'm looking at just such a short time frame, I want to, the next step would be to look at a little bit more days. So I can do that by going in here, and instead of selecting events dash and then a single day, I'm going to just press a star here, and then underneath I'm going to say where, and then table suffix between, and then let's do a whole year. And I'm going to do a whole year because I don't have so much traffic. But if you have a high volume site, I recommend just take a week or something to practice, or just a couple of days to limit the amount of load on these servers. Okay, let's do a whole year here. So 1st of January and end of December. And let's see the amount of events, views, and users over the whole year. Yeah, there you go. So I have 7,000 events, 1,300 views, 400 users. Let's do conversions as well. My conversions are called contact form submit. So I'm just going to say count if event name is contact form submit. That's called a lead. So how many leads did I have in here whole year? Yeah, 65. Good. So this is a very basic example of how you can pull in a couple of metrics from your raw data. Let's go a little bit deeper in the next example. So for the next example, I'm just going to continue with this table, but I'm going to remove the first part. I'm going to say select star for the whole year. And I'm going to just return the first 10 events. Let's start here. And I want to make a list of all the events that I had in the previous year. So I have a field here that says event name. So I'm going to use that field. And I'm going to count the amount of events. So I can do this, count and then event name. So it's just going to count the amount of rows. I'm going to give that a name as event count. There you go. And I also want to list the amount of users per event. So count distinct user pseudo ID. Yeah, there you go. As users. Because I don't want to list all the rows, but I want to group it underneath here. I'm going to say group by event name. So let's press enter and let me show you what happens. So instead of listing all the individual rows, it's going to count the amount of session start events and the amount of page views here and the amount of first visit events. So it's going to group the rows by event name. And I can do one more thing because it didn't sort it properly. So let's do order by and then event count, because that's the name of this column here. And let's do descending. So now I have a list of events that I'm tracking currently. Well, I could do the limit. I could increase that to 100, for instance. Yeah, here you go. So we have a list of all the events that I have tracked over the past year. So the page view was the most tracked. Then I have a couple of custom events, user engagement. There's a very common event that a lot of you might recognize here. And that is for me, it's under number 27. It's the click event. These are the clicks that GA4 registers that users do to a different site. So if people go to your site, click on a link that leads people away from your site to another site, then GA4 will automatically track a click event. So we can kind of zoom into this event by going here, by where, and then say and event name equals, and then just choose this one. Event name is click. There you go. So it basically just filtered down the entire row. What you can do here is you can disable this. For me, it's command slash or control slash, probably if you're on Windows. It basically comments this out, so it doesn't look at this, but I can leave it there because I want to use that later on. And let's do select star. I have all the events. Oh, and I need to remove the group by as well and the order by. I'm gonna just disable all of this because I want to go back. I want to look at the event name equals click here. Order by. This should work. So I basically have all the events in a row, but only the click event. So this is a click event, this is a click event, this is a click event. So it returns just all the click events. Let's zoom in a little bit and let's look at what we have here. So under event parameters, we have a link URL. So we can basically see where people clicked. So under link URL. But as you can see, it's not in a dedicated field. It doesn't say link URL right here, but it says it under event params key. It says link URL. And then under event params value.string value, it says linkedin.com/. So you kind of need to do a little bit more processing to get the linked URL from the raw data. Okay, so let me show you how you could do that. To be honest, I cannot memorize what we need to do here, so I have it on a hotkey. So next to event name, I want to see where did people click. Let me see, unnest is what I put it on under. And I'm just gonna call this link, and I'm gonna say link URL. This is the key, and then it's under value.string value. So I will put all my snippets under a link in the video description. So if you want to copy and steal my stuff, just go ahead into the video description. So select value.string value from unnest event params. And then under group by, I not only want to group by event name, but I want to group by link as well. Let's make it easy. Let's just say group by all. Yeah, let's go. So now I have all the click events grouped by where people clicked. So I have basically 3 external links. I have YouTube, LinkedIn, and a cheat sheet where people clicked. Under event count, it says event count, but I could rename this to clicks because it's the amount of clicks. And I also need to redo my order by. So clicks, descending. It doesn't do anything different, but just making this name a little bit more readable because I filtered by event name click. It's not just events, but these are all clicks. So 3 clicks on my YouTube, 3 clicks on my LinkedIn, and 1 click on my cheat sheet. So don't worry, my company is doing fine. This is just another example of how you can process your raw data into something a little bit more useful and a little bit more readable. And you could do this not only with the click event, but also with your file downloads or with other events that you have in your GA4 setup. All right, let's move on to the next example. All right, in my next example, I want to generate a list of pages from my site. So I'm gonna simplify this way back. So let's go remove this. Let's even remove this. And let's just see what this returns. So the raw data contains all sorts of events. So I have a first visit, session start, and then I have a page view event right here. And the page view events just signal that somebody visited a page. And under page view, I have a couple of fields here that are relevant. So under event parameters, there is a page location and a page title. And there's also a page refer. So not in this case, probably because it's a direct traffic. Let's look at another page view. So maybe here, entrance, no. Yeah, page location. Let's look at another one. Yeah, here, this has a page refer. So that's also a relevant field. So how would you turn the raw data into something, for instance, like a list of pages? Well, let's first filter down by event name equals page view. So we only have page view events in our results. All right, that's the first step. The second step is I want to see the pages that people visited versus the amount of views. Let's start with views first. So to count the amount of views, I can just count the amount of rows here in my selection. So I can just do something like this, count, and then event name. I could even count the amount of unique users. So distinct user pseudo ID. And then because I really like to keep things readable, let's just name this views and let's name this users. So this is a start. So this gives me the amount of views and the amount of users in a year. And as I showed you, the page location field contains the page that people visited. So I can include that in my selection here by doing the same that I did in the last example. I need to do a nest because it's in a nested field here under event parameters key page location, and then under event params value, string value, that contains the actual value. We need to do some processing. And again, I have that under a hotkey because I cannot remember that. The value is from string value right here. So that's why I'm going to select from string value from the event parameters. Yeah. And where key is, and then the key is page location. No, singular, and then as page. Let's name this page. And I don't want to display like singular rows. I want to group by page. So I'm going to say group by, let's keep it easy. Let's just say group by all. And let's hit enter. Let's see what happens. So it returns all the pages that people visited on my site, but it didn't sort. So let's add that, order by, and then I just want to order by views. Let's do descending. Yeah, there you go. So these are all the views on all my top pages on my site. And I could even add fields to this, for instance, an event date. And then it would maybe make sense to just order by event date first. So ascending and then views descending. So we have a table with every day separately. So this is the 2nd of January. And then the 2nd of January, these are the 3 pages that were viewed. And these are the kind of tables that you could use in a Looker dashboard. So these are filterable by day because you have the event date included in the result. If people are interested, I can show in a different tutorial how you can schedule queries. So it kind of processes the date and automatically turns it in a new table that you can then pull into a Looker dashboard. But for now, I'm just going to keep it simple. So let's remove the event date here and remove it here as well. So this is just a simple list of pages sorted by the amount of views. All right, let's move on to the next example. So for the next example, I want to look at traffic sources. And let's simplify this again. So I'm just going to go back into select star, where I'm going to remove this filter. And I'm going to remove this group and order by. We're going back to our raw data again. And what I basically want is just a list of all the traffic sources that I have on my site. And if you are familiar with GA or GA4, you know that GA4 has a couple of ways of looking at traffic sources. In GA4 reports, you have the user acquisition reports and you have the, I believe, traffic acquisition report. So the user acquisition report displays kind of the first traffic source. So if a user has 5 sessions, but the first session was via Google Organic, it's gonna always show Google Organic for every session. And then you also have the traffic acquisition report, and then this just displays the last non-direct traffic source for that session. So if a user clicks on an email, for instance, in the 3rd session, it's just gonna attribute the whole session to that email. So basically we can do both in BigQuery as well. So let's look at what are the fields that we're gonna use for this. So under details or schema, there are 2 relevant fields. First of all, the traffic source. This contains the user source. So the source that the user came to your site through first. And this has a source, a medium, and a name. So this is basically the campaign. And then you also have a session traffic source last click. And this basically corresponds with the traffic acquisition report in GA4. And then, well, there are a lot of fields here, but basically I tend to use these source, medium, and then campaign name fields right here. So let me show you how you could process your raw data to get something like a traffic source report from your raw data. So again, I'm going to select the amount of users. So same thing here, count, distinct, and then user pseudo ID. And what we do here is just count the amount of unique values of the cookie ID. And this is the amount of unique users that we have. So as users. And let's look at traffic source, or what's the name again? Traffic source. Yeah, there you go. Again, these are the user traffic sources. And let's group by all to make it easy. So I don't want individual rows, but I want it to count the amount of users per Google Organic, etc. And then let's sort order by users descending. Okay, let's go. Yeah, so here we have the traffic source name. So we could do something like this, traffic source name. And that is basically the campaign. And let's call it user campaign. We have the traffic source medium. Well, that's the user medium. And we have the traffic source source. That is the user source. By doing this, you have a little bit more clarity in your presentation and you can have a little bit more control over the order, but the data is exactly the same. Direct is by far the most used source, and then Google Organic. We could also do the leads here. So again, in my GA4 account, the lead is a contact form submit event. So I can do count if, and then event name equals contact form submit, and then as leads. Oops, count if, where are we? Oh, I forgot a comma here. Yeah, there you go. So there you go. And as you see, of course, a lot of testing here through Tag Assistant. Yeah, so user source, medium, campaign, users, leads. This is a report that could resemble something like the user acquisition in GA4. Let's do a traffic acquisition as well. So the traffic acquisition fields are under session traffic source last click, and then manual campaign. So let's open that up. So session manual campaign. Let's press enter. So I made a typo probably. So session traffic source last click. Yeah, there you go. Oh no, close. session traffic source last click, manual campaign. And then of course we have a lot of fields here. So I'm gonna organize this a little bit. So campaign name as session campaign. And then we have a source and a medium. So let's do those three again. So source as session, source, medium as session, medium. So this is a simple report that kind of resembles the traffic acquisition report in GA4. So I have checked the top line with my regular GA4 property, and that corresponds well with direct traffic in my account. All right, let me do one more example. And that is something that I really like to do is I like to kind of research my conversions. So again, I'm just querying for a whole year, and let's simplify this. So I want to see all the events for the last year. And let me add a filter here. Let's say and event name equals contact form submit, because that is my conversion event in GA4. If you have a different conversion, please use that. So I have all the conversion events for the previous year. And then what I like to do here is I like to just pick a pseudo ID. So for instance, this one. Let's say that I'm looking at a conversion that happened in August and I want to kind of research that. What I can do here is I can, instead of filtering by event name, I can filter by user, pseudo ID equals, and then just paste in the pseudo ID that I just got from the previous results. And now I can see for the last year, like what is this user? When did they arrive? When did they came to my site first? What were the different sessions? What were the different pages? I can even see like a region, for instance. So this is Netherlands, Western Europe. Oh, this is a testing session, what I can see already. So it's probably myself because I'm using my site all the time in videos like this. Let's look at some different fields. So I'm looking at, like we have seen the geo fields, but we have device fields as well. Oh, we can even query device here. So what kind of device are we dealing with here? So it's Apple Safari. So that's probably my own desktop device. And what you can do here is say, for instance, event date, event timestamp. And timestamp, we haven't talked about that really, but timestamp is basically a number that represents a date and a time. It's in milliseconds often. So you can really closely determine like when did this happen. And if you order by the timestamp, you will order it chronologically. So event timestamp, event name, and event params. Let's just query this. I picked the user pseudo ID, so the cookie ID from someone that converted on my site, and I filtered on that user pseudo ID, and I queried the event date, timestamp, and let me just order by event timestamp ascending. So it's just from old to new. It might do that by default, but I want to make sure. So here you go. So it starts with an audience trigger, and then first visit, session start, page view, user engagement, page view, form start, user engagement. You basically get a chronological view from a very specific session. In this case, somebody that converted on my site, and I can see everything that that user has done and then learn from that. So like what pages led to that conversion, what kind of events led to that conversion, how many sessions, how many days was that user active. So in this case, I think it's just a single day, but we could do something like count distinct on the event date. And then probably my order by statement is not going to work now. So how many specific days do I have? It's 1. No, 7. So this user came to my site 7 times in its lifetime. Yeah, let's go back again. So this chronological view of a very specific user or session, I really love this to learn more and research like what's happening on my site. Also, if things are just not adding up. So if you see data in your GA4 reports that are just not adding up, this is a way to just really zoom in on your raw data and learn what's really happening on your site. Alright, that's it for today. I hope this video was clear and I hope it was helpful. Please let me know if you have questions, and also please let me know if you find videos on BigQuery helpful. I've been going really deep in BigQuery over the past months and over the past year, but I haven't been teaching this really so far. So to me, making videos on YouTube is really a trial and error, but I find this just really fun to talk about. I hope this kind of resonates with you as well, but please let me know if you want me to do more videos on this. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.